Hi students, welcome to the world of zoology. Myself Dr. Sai from Zoology Wala. Now in this session I am going to explain you about the symmetry. In the previous sessions I explained all the fundamental concepts of animal kingdom like levels of organization, complete gut, incomplete gut, open circulation, closed circulation, and then coelom also, acoelom, pseudocoelom, schizocilom, enterocoelom, like that. And now in this session I am going to close all symmetries. What is symmetry basically? Why the medicos has to study the symmetry? You know, symmetry is nothing but the arrangement of body parts around the central axis. Why you have to study? You should know where the particular organ is located and how much distance that particular organ is there with reference to the central axis, and what are the different types of sense organs which are located in the body. You should know all this in the animals and also in the human being. So symmetry is very fundamental issue in the animals. In order to understand the architecture of an animal, you should know what is symmetry. So symmetry, what is symmetry? Symmetry is nothing but arrangement of Symmetry is nothing but the arrangement of body parts around the central axis. Symmetry is nothing but the arrangement of body parts around the central axis. You may ask me, sir, what is axis and what is principal axis? So, imagine this as an animal. This is nothing but axis. Axis is nothing but the division which begins at one end and goes to the other end. This is axis, this is axis, this is axis, this is axis, like that, number of axes. Whereas principal axis is nothing but the division which passes through the center. So if the division passes through the center of an organism, that axis is called principal axis, whereas axis is nothing but the division which begins at other end and which ends at other end. It may not necessarily pass through the center, whereas principal axis should pass through the center. And the principal axis or axis, once if you cut the organism through the axis or principal axis, you will get the flat area, isn't it? Take the apple, cut it into two pieces, you will get the flat area. So the flat areas, these are nothing but planes. The flat area which runs through the axis or principal axis is nothing but plane. And now let us see what is spherical symmetry. This is the spherical symmetry, and this is animal. Actinophores, heliozoans, and volvax. These are the organisms which exhibit spherical symmetry. What do you mean by spherical symmetry? Animal will be in spherical shape. For example, take one ball, one tennis ball or cricket ball. If you say this is anterior end of the ball and this is the posterior end of the ball, now I will change the ball like this. Then will you say this is anterior end? If you say this is anterior end, I will change the ball like this. I will change the ball like this. So if you are rotating the ball, obviously the ends will change. So we cannot clearly differentiate which is anterior end, which is posterior end, which is dorsal, which is ventral. So anterior end, posterior end, this is ventral end of human being and this is the dorsal end of human being. Like that we cannot differentiate which is anterior, which is posterior, which is dorsal, which is ventral. But if you want to cut the organism, you have to cut the organism into two equal halves. When your division passes through the center, then only you can divide the organism into two equal halves. See this one, see this one, and see this one, see this one. So in number of planes you can cut the organism into two equal halves, provided when the division passes through center. That is spherical symmetry. Where it is seen? It is seen in some protists. It is seen in Actinophores, Actinophorys, or it is also seen in volvax, like that, it's a protist. But it is seen in some organisms which exhibits spherical in shape. So that's all about the spherical symmetry. Let me explain you the second type of symmetry, which is asymmetry. Asymmetry is not considered as a symmetry, isn't it? Asymmetry, A means absent. A means absent. Symmetry is absent in this animal. That is the reason why it is called asymmetry. Let me write. So what is asymmetry? Asymmetry, like asylum. This is asymmetry. My dear friends, you shouldn't separate once again like asylum. It is asylum. No, it is asylum. Asylum is absent. Asymmetry. A means absent. Symmetry is absent. So asymmetry. There is no arrangement of body parts properly. There is no proper body shape for the animal. That is the reason why it is called asymmetry. And now I will draw one diagram, and I like this amoeba. Why? Because whatever the diagram you draw, simply you can call this as an amoeba. Okay, it will become amoeba. See, this is amoeba. There is no proper shape. As a result of which, how can you cut the organism into two equal halves? Isn't it? We cannot cut the organism into two equal halves. See this one, the sponges. Most of the sponges, not all, most of the sponges. So most of the sponges are asymmetrical. Okay, so there is no proper arrangement of body parts, or there is no proper shape for the animal. That is the reason why we are not considering this animal is exhibiting symmetry. Let me show you the next slide. Radial symmetry. What is this radial symmetry? R-A-D-I-A-L. Radial symmetry. So in asymmetry, any plane which is passing through the body is not going to divide the animal into two equal halves. That is asymmetry. And now radial symmetry, any plane passing through the central axis. Central axis means here Oroboral axis is going to divide the animal into two equal halves. For example, imagine this as the hydra. And this is the oral region, and this is the aboral region, opposite of the oral region, where anus is supposed to be there. Anus is not present here. Anus is supposed to be there, and this is aboral region. And of course, here tentacles are present like this. Here tentacles are present. So if you are able to cut the organism into two equal halves, the division should pass like this. It means this is an animal. Oroborally you have to divide the animal. You have to divide the animal through the central axis, but this is not the central axis of an animal. Central axis means oral and aboral should touch. So you can cut the organism into number of planes, but the axis should be oroboral. So your division should touch both mouth as well as aboral region. That is the reason why it is called oroboral axis. So the principal axis here is oroboral axis. We can cut the animal into two equal halves in number of planes, provided when the division passes through oroboral axis, isn't it? Like this. This is one, this is second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, like that. Number of planes are there, but the division should pass through center. If you see the superficially, see this is the aerial view. If you see the oral view like this, imagine this is the oral view, and now like this, this one. So not like this. You have to cut the organism. The division should touch both oral and aboral. So oroboral axis is the principal axis in case of radial symmetry or radial symmetrical animals. Radial symmetry is very much advantage for sessile animal or slow moving animal or sluggish animal. Sluggish animal is slow moving animal, lethargic animals. Why? Because see here sense organs are arranged around the central axis. As a result of which, you know what happens? For example, if you take the human beings, we have sense organs here in this side, in the ventral side. And we don't have the eyes here on the dorsal side, isn't it? That is the reason when the teacher turned towards the board, the students will try to speak, isn't it? So here, sense organs are present only on one side for human beings, I am saying. But for sessile animals, sense organs are present around the central axis. So without turning the body, without twisting the body, without changing the direction of the body, animal can see who is coming from all directions. The predator, if predator is coming from this side or this side, even from this side also, the animal is able to see, animal is able to sense what type of predator is coming from which direction. This is advantage. So animal can perceive, animal can sense the surroundings, animal can sense whether food material is coming or not along with the water. Animal can sense all these. So then after perceiving, animal will show its own adaptation in order to protect or in order to take the food material. So radial symmetry, here the point you have to remember, center point means through oroboral axis, and these animals meet their environment equally from all sides. That's what I told just now. So they move quite slowly, or slow moving, or sluggish animals, and they may be sessile also, or their food must float by, or they must create water currents. I mean to say, food material, if it is coming along with the water, animal is able to take so easily because it can sense the surroundings. Okay, so that is the radial symmetry. There are some deviations are there. Let me tell you this example. What is this one? This is starfish. Starfish, you know, echinoderm. Echinoderms exhibit pentamerous radial symmetry. If you observe the larva of echinoderms, bilateral symmetry is present. But if you observe the adult echinoderms, starfish especially, pentamerous radial symmetry. It means you can cut the starfish in 5 planes. See this one. You can cut the starfish in 5 directions. See this one. This is number 1. Let me change the color so that you can see clearly. See this one. This is number 1 and this is number 2 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is first one. We can cut the starfish into 2 equal halves, and this is the second one. Here also this we can cut the starfish into 2 equal halves. Third one, fourth one, fifth one. So in 5 directions you can cut the starfish into 2 equal halves. That is the reason why it comes under pentamerous radial symmetry. So this is pentamerous radial symmetry, which is seen in starfish. Pentamerous radial symmetry is seen in starfish. This is another type of radial symmetry. You know, another type of radial symmetry is there called biradial symmetry. Some scientists will tell it is a combination of both bilateral symmetry and radial symmetry. I will tell what is that bilateral symmetry just now. See, this is biradial symmetry, which is exhibited by ctenophores, comb jellies, which are commonly called comb jellies. Ctenophores are commonly called comb jellies, or sea walnuts, or sea gooseberries also. So in 2 directions, in this direction you can get the 2 equal half, and similarly in this direction also you can get the equal half. Listen, just see here. In one direction, this is one direction where you will get 2 equal halves. This is the first one, and second one, this is the second end division where you can get 2 equal halves. Animal is present like this. This is oral and this is opposite end. Okay, anal end. And in this direction, if you cut the organism, you will get the 2 equal half. In this direction, you will get the 2 equal halves. So 2 equal halves are possible in 2 directions only. That is the reason why this is called biradial symmetry. See, there is no greatness in the person who is cutting the organism. Greatness lies in the animal. Sense organs are inside organs are arranged like so. So organs are arranged in such a fashion where you can cut the organism into 2 equal halves in 2 directions only. That is biradial symmetry, which is a type of radial symmetry. So here pentamerous radial symmetry, and this one is biradial symmetry. I will show you another type of symmetry. See this one. This is seen in jellyfish, Tramurous radial symmetry. You can cut the animal into 2 equal halves in 4 directions. So this is this is Tramurous radial symmetry, isn't it? Tramurous radial symmetry. And what is this one? This is Hexamerous radial symmetry. This is seen in sea anemone. See, inside organs are arranged in such a fashion that you will get 2 equal halves when the division passes in 6 directions. Just for your understanding, I will write. Okay, just to make you realize that these symmetries are also there, I mentioned. This is Tramurous radial symmetry. This one is Tramurous radial symmetry, and this one is Hexamerous radial symmetry. Hexamerous, Hexamerous radial symmetry. But you have to remember one thing. In all these organisms, principal axis, Oroboral axis, you have to remember that word. And here Tramurous radial symmetry in 4 directions, Hexamerous radial symmetry in 6 directions. Previously I have shown pentamerous radial symmetry in 5 directions, biradial in 2 directions. Radial symmetry, number of planes, but the division should pass through Oroboral axis. So these are the types of radial symmetry. So I explained spherical symmetry, I explained asymmetry, and I explained radial symmetry also. Now we will see a very important symmetry, highly developed symmetry when compared with the remaining symmetries, is bilateral symmetry. So bilateral symmetry, highly advanced symmetry when compared with the previous symmetries. This bilateral symmetry is seen in all triploblastic animals. It means 3 germ layers. What are those 3 germ layers? I explained at the time of coelom: ectodome, mesodome, endodome. So in 3 germ layers, those organisms which exhibits triploblastic condition exhibit bilateral symmetry. That is the reason why that group is also called Triploblastica or bilateria. Okay, that I will tell at the time of animal kingdom. And now see this one. Take for example human being as the best example for this bilateral symmetry. If you want to cut the human being into two equal halves, how you will cut? Tell me. If you want to cut the human being into two equal halves, if at all imagine I have given you one dead body, or when you enter into your MBBS, first year MBBS, in the anatomy lab, imagine the professor asked you to cut the dead body into two equal halves. How you will cut? Take one sharp knife and cut the human being like this. Then you will get two equal halves, isn't it? Imagine the person is measuring around the length of around 5 feet or 6 feet. So if you make a section in the middle, 3 feet anterior, 3 feet posterior, then your job is over. Then you can tell the professor, Professor, I finished my job. No, it's not like that. What do you mean by equal halves? Whatever the parts which are present on one side should be present on other side. Whatever the parts which are present on one side should be present on other side. Then only we will consider that half as an equal half, isn't it? For example, if you take the apple, and if at all I ask you to cut the apple into two halves, you will cut 70% and 30%. You will take 70% and you will give that 30% piece to me. That is not half. Then what is the difference between half and equal half? If at all I ask you to cut the apple into two equal halves, now you don't have any choice. You have to cut the apple exactly in the center. So 50% half you should take, and another 50% you have to give it to me. Why? Because I asked you to cut the apple equally. So equal halves are different, halves are different. And now how you will get the equal half in triploblastic animals? For example, you take the human being. If you want to cut the human being into two equal halves, how you will cut? Take one sharp knife, cut the human being like this. Like this. Take the knife, sharp knife, cut the human being like this. And now, so don't try this, okay? So if you cut the human being like this, cut the human being like this, what happens? So then two halves will separate. See, the division is passing through the ventral as well as dorsal. That is the reason why this is also called dorso-ventral axis. In the radial symmetry, oroboral axis, and now dorso-ventral axis like this. Dorsal and ventral. Back side is dorsal and ventral side, stomach side. So the division, when the division passes like this, that is dorso-ventral axis. One side will have the left hand, and another part will have the right hand. One eye is present in one half, another eye is present in one half. One ear is present in one half, another ear is present in another half. Then you may ask me, sir, we have only one nose, we have only one mouth, then how these organs are going to separate? You know, if there is only one organ, and that too if that organ is present in the central axis, that organ will be shared. Nose will be shared, mouth will be shared. So if you have only one organ, that organ will be shared. Okay, good. Then you may ask me, okay sir, what you said is good. If at all two parts are present, one part on one half, another part in another half. If only one organ is present, okay, that organ will be also shared. If that too, if that organ is present in central axis. But what about stomach here? It is present on one side, liver is present on other side. What about these organs? You tell me. Heart is also not exactly present on one side. If at all some organs are not present exactly at the center, how that organs are going to be divided? So that is the reason. Let me tell you one final concluding point. There is no animal in this world which exhibits perfect symmetry. Definitely some sort of dissimilarities will be there. So if you ask me which symmetrical animal or which type of symmetrical animal will exhibit perfect symmetry, there is no animal in this world which exhibits perfect symmetry. Even in the radial symmetry or even in the bilateral symmetry, biradial symmetry, some deviations will be there. Especially in bilateral symmetry, you cannot exactly cut the organism into two equal halves. Am I clear? So the division should pass like this. What is this axis? What is this axis? Mid-sagittal. If the division passes through mid-sagittal axis, then we are going to get two equal halves. We are going to have two equal halves, mid-sagittal axis. That is also called dorso-ventral axis. Dorso-ventral. So the division which should pass through dorsal and ventral. So dorso-ventral axis is also called mid-sagittal axis or dorso-ventral axis. That is the principal axis here. That is the only axis which is possible in case of bilateral symmetrical animals which make the organism into two equal halves. You see here, for example, take the squirrel. See, I have represented one beautiful squirrel here, or you can take the fish also. What is there? Here squirrel is there. I will represent one fish just for your understanding. Imagine this is fish. Hope so it is clear. Yes, it is like fish only. And now see, what I am doing is, if I want to cut the fish like this, so this one, this is called transverse axis. So because of the transverse axis, I will get the anterior and posterior parts, isn't it? Say this, anterior, and this one is posterior. Anterior and posterior parts are possible because of cutting the organism in transverse axis. So I will get anterior and posterior parts. And now let us take the fish into your hand, and now the fish is seeing me. The two eyes of the fish, they are focusing me, imagine. And now I will take the sharp knife and I will cut the fish just beneath the eyes, like this, and this is called frontal, and this is called frontal axis. This is frontal. So if I made a cut just beneath the eyes like this, I will get the dorsal part and ventral part like this. So this one, here the eye, the fish is seeing me. What this guy is going to do, it is observing me. See this one, this is the frontal. So if I cut the fish like this, I will get this one as dorsal and this is ventral. What is this one? Frontal. So in frontal direction, if you cut, so if you are going to make the cut in frontal direction, you are going to get dorsal and VNTRAL, ventral, dorsal and ventral ends. Just now I explained this one, sagittal. Say this one, sagittal. So if you are cutting the organism sagittally, it means take another fish into your hand, just cut the fish between the eyes like this. See, the two eyes of the fish are facing me. I am going to cut the fish between the eyes. So I am going to get right and left. So sagittal, if I am cutting the organism in sagittal axis, I am going to get right and left parts of the body. So if you cut the organism transversely, you will get anterior and posterior. If you cut the organism frontally, like this, for example, take the sharp knife and cut the human being like this. So this will become ventral and this will become dorsal. So even for the fish, like this, dorsal and ventral. And the last one, sagittal, cut the human being like this, you will get right and left parts. But as I said, when compared with the remaining two axes, this is going to be considered a bit better because almost all or most of the organs will be shared equally, except few organs, exceptions are universal, that is a different story. You have to remember one more thing, triploblastic animals are highly developed animals because of having cephalization. See this beautiful squirrel, see how much beautiful it is, how much cute it is. See cephalization, and even for the fish also, cephalization is nothing but formation of head with specific sense organs. Sense organs are concentrated at the anterior end. That is the reason, for example, if you take the snake, if the snake wants to come out of its hiding place, first it will put its head out and check the surroundings, check the conditions, and if all the conditions are good, it will come out. So, same is the case with the rabbit also. So first they will check the conditions. Why? Because perfectly developed head with sense organs developed in triploblastic animals. So triploblastic animals are highly developed animals when compared with the previous animals. So to have the command over the triploblastic animals, you should know what are the different types of symmetries present in lower animals also. So that's how the different types of symmetries can be explained. We will meet in the next session. Thank you, my dear friends. Signing off.